I get it, there's a ton of welding machines on the market that look perfect on the photo, promise industrial strength performance, and then when you actually hook them up in a garage they either won't start, can't hold a steady arc, or just feel like you're trying to weld with a hairdryer. That hesitation is what made me dig a little deeper before I even touched the Everlast PowerTIG 325EXT. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. What I found is that this isn't another generic entry-level unit pretending to be a professional welder. Everlast has actually upgraded the core with IGBT power modules, which are the kind of components you usually see in higher-end inverter machines. The result is a smoother power delivery that translates into less flicker on the arc and a noticeable reduction in heat buildup inside the case. For someone who's spent a weekend troubleshooting a cheap welder that kept tripping the breaker, that reliability upgrade feels like a real win. Let's talk about the numbers that matter when you're setting up a shop. The PowerTIG 325EXT is rated at 320 amps and can run on standard 220-volt shop power. That puts it comfortably in the range for most hobbyist and small business projects. Think repairing a rusted-through truck frame or building a custom steel table. The machine also drops down to 5 amps, which is a sweet spot for thin sheet work, like welding 24-gauge automotive body panels or delicate stainless steel jewelry components. In practice, that low amperage setting gives you enough heat to fuse the metal without burning through it, and the arc stays stable enough that you don't have to constantly adjust the torch. One of the biggest pain points I've heard from other welders is juggling between TIG, stick, and even basic MIG setups because they own separate machines for each process. The PowerTIG 325EXT tries to solve that by offering true AC/DC TIG capability alongside a stick welding function. You can switch between TIG and stick on the fly, and the unit includes 2-touch, 2T, and 4-touch, 4T, trigger modes, plus a pedal option if you like that level of control. In my test, the 2T mode worked well for quick repairs where I just needed to tap the trigger and go, while the 4T mode gave me a more precise tap-hold release feel for longer runs. The pedal was a nice addition for when you were welding in a cramped position and needed your hands free to adjust the workpiece. Pulse welding is another feature that often gets tossed around in marketing copy without explaining why you'd actually need it. This Everlast model can pulse up to 500 Hz in DC mode and 250 Hz in AC, and it even has a 10 Hz advanced AC pulse designed to improve penetration on thicker metals. In the field, that translates to a cleaner root pass on inch steel without having to manually tweak the amperage. I tried it on a piece of 3mm stainless steel that usually shows a lot of spatter, and the high-frequency pulse kept the arc tight, dramatically reducing the amount of slag I had to clean up later. Arc force control, hot start time, and hot start intensity are all knobs that can feel overwhelming if you've never used them, but they become handy once you understand the problem they solve. Arc force control lets you adjust how aggressively the welder grabs the metal when you first make contact. If you're working on a thin aluminum panel, dialing down the force prevents the torch from biting into the sheet and making a hole. Hot start is essentially a brief boost of power at the beginning of the weld, which helps you get the arc going on dirty or painted surfaces without the arc constantly flickering. I used hot start while repairing a rust-ridden steel pipe that still had a light coating of mill scale, and the arc locked in on the first strike, something that normally takes a few tries with a non-hot start machine. Safety is another area where the PowerTIG tries to earn points. The VRD, voltage reduction device, function is meant to lower the voltage on the machine when you're not actively welding, which reduces the chance of accidental electric shock. In a busy shop where you have apprentices or people moving around, that little extra layer of protection can be reassuring. It's not a substitute for proper grounding and personal protective equipment, but it does add a safety net that many entry-level welders lack. Now, who should actually consider buying this? If you're a hobbyist who already has a basic stick welder and is looking to dip your toes into TIG without spending $1,000 on a dedicated unit, the PowerTIG 325EXT is a solid bridge. It's also a good fit for a small automotive repair shop that needs the flexibility to jump between TIG on aluminum, stick on steel, and occasional AC welding for copper or brass. The fact that it runs on standard 220-volt power means you won't have to install a special 3-phase outlet, which keeps the upfront cost down. On the flip side, if you're a full-time professional fabricator who needs a machine that can run 24/7 on a heavy-duty